I think we had some on our end as well, so
Nice to meet you, Martha. Kristen.
no worries.
I didn't know this was.
I was
Nominate
just
me for an office.
I'm nominating you for vice chair.
Now, how do we bring back our screen?
Yes, so
Yeah, the chair is fine, but not
Then nominate me for vice.
you.
I'll take it if
Okay.
you want.
It's part of the utility committee.
we can
I
just.
got too much going on.
okay.
Life?
That's a huge.
Can they see
Retirement
this
is just
too?
the funniest thing.
The Zoom people?
You get busier than you've ever been.
Less
You
time.
sound like my father. He's working more than he ever has now that he's retired.
Yeah, retiring, I'll just take one thing off my list. That's,
Yeah, but you'll add 10.
something else will fill in. Yeah.
Folks on Zoom, can you see our screen?
It says master plan overview.
Fantastic.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I can see it. Just one thing real quick. I'll have to jump off at 5:40 when I get to my destination, so keep going. I can see it on my phone, yes.
Okay, does that mean that, Robert, you're driving and watching your phone simultaneously? We're all scared.
I'm not doing that, so don't worry about it.
At least he's not admitting to it.
Okay, we believe you. All right.
And I think that if we can, just before we get started, we have some folks appearing via Zoom. That's permissible under 91A, provided that this board agrees that it's not reasonably practicable for these folks who are traveling to be here in the room. So I would just suggest that the board make that finding so that we can proceed.
So I would believe that I would have to agree with Mike, it's not reasonable for the folks that are traveling to be here. Do you need a motion, Mike, or you
No,
just need a
consensus is fine.
consensus?
Thank you.
Consensus.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
agree?
I agree.
Yeah, I
Great,
agree.
thank you.
Thank you. So, do you want to, Jake,
Yeah,
I mean, do you want to kick
yeah,
things
I mean,
off?
I'd be more than happy to kick off if you'd like. Obviously, you know, I think everybody here knows a little bit of the background. We started discussing putting a committee together over the past, month or so now. And these are the folks that we've landed on. Some of us are from boards. We've got a handful of people from the public. It's nice to see a new face. Welcome.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
And this is our first meeting. I know we've got a little bit of an agenda, I think is more kind of housekeeping stuff of nominations and whatnot. But from here, Sylvia, I will, you are going to be the person steering the steering committee. So I'll give it to you.
Okay, great. All right, well, welcome Zoom, folks, and thanks, everyone. Glad we had a quick time to just, so that I could introduce myself. I've been helping in the planning department for a while, actually since Colleen was first saying goodbye to Londonderry. But now my role will be to help guide the process with the master plan. And so tonight, what we want to do is do a brief review of what I'd like to think of as the next 4 months, so we have an idea on that process. Don't mind my back.
No.
About my head, which I know isn't, I don't know if it's better than the front. But anyway, so that's what we'd like to do, review the process. And I'd also like to get a thumbs up on some of the outreach plans and ideas that are here, so we'll be looking at that. Some of that includes developing a website and our plans to get a table at your, is it
Old Home Day.
Old Home Day. We want a table there, but we'll get into more of that detail in a minute. The other thing we want to do tonight is we want to review the outline of the old master plan. That is lengthy, so we're going to buckle in for that and talk about what works and what is no longer working, or what we don't need to update. The other thing is taking a look at the draft survey that we've developed. That started about a month or so ago. And I think some of the emails did not go through, what I'm understanding, so want to make sure that the committee has all had a chance to look at that and provided input. I did get quite a bit of input, and so we'll be reviewing that. And I hope we can get through all of this in, what do we have, an hour?
For the master plan, 6 months?
No, tonight.
I think the next meeting is is at 7. So hopefully it won't take 2 hours, but you won't be kicked out of the room until then.
All right, so we probably want to give them half an hour, so let's call it an hour and a half, because we don't want overlap, and I think that's reasonable. All right, is everybody with me?
With you.
Yes.
All right, let's buckle in on the next work plan. So,
Sylvia, excuse me for interrupting. Do we need to elect our officers first course
oh,
of?
thank you. Kelly did suggest that, so yes. Good idea. Thanks, Lynn, keeping us in line.
I would like to make a motion to nominate Jeff Penta as chair of this committee.
I'd like to second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Jeff, congratulations.
Nothing like not being in the room.
Voluntold.
That's what happens when you travel.
Right?
Thank
Skipped
you.
a meeting and
I
found myself
appreciate,
chair of a board once, too.
To be appointed, to chair this, certain committee. Incredibly important work lies ahead. I'm really looking forward to collaboratively working with you all, and really just to kind of put to paper, what the needs, desires, and aspirations of our residents. So again, incredible opportunity, incredible honor, to serve our town in a very meaningful way. So thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Jake Butler as the vice chair for the steering committee.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you. And just to add on to what Jeff said, I'm really excited for this to be getting kicked off. I think it's a really important item that we need to focus on, and I'm looking forward to seeing Jeff chair this committee. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Jeff over the past couple of years now on the planning board, and he's become a really big asset for the board. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Do we need a secretary?
Well, do we need to take minutes? Yes, you do. And I'm going to guess yes.
Okay. So
So it has to be someone willing to take notes.
Who's the good note taker here?
Everybody take a step back.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the background?
I say, what do we have? I would make a motion for Christie to be the secretary.
I had eye contact. No, do I break it or not?
You know that thing that happens when you're in school and the teacher makes eye contact? That's
I was
exactly
like,
what happened.
oh no.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Got my pen.
Christie is our
Here
secretary.
we go.
Chrissy, you're willing? You're okay?
I just put my pen out.
Okay.
Thank you, Christie.
You're welcome.
So it may be, so there's going to be a little bit of a briefing on 91A later, but it may be a good opportunity to just talk for 2 minutes about minutes. The minutes do not need to be a verbatim transcription of what is said. If anything, they really should be high level. And the only thing under the right to know law that they must capture is the date and time of the meeting. And if there is a vote or a decision that is taken, who made the motion, who makes the second, and what the vote is.
Okay.
So you need not
I don't need to story
kill
tell.
yourself with, yes.
Perfect.
Mike, is this a meeting that is gonna be recorded? Or
Yes.
is- Okay, so in any case, obviously, some of these meetings might get long and very full of discussion, so don't be trying to kill yourself. You can always go back to it.
Awesome.
Do you also have to say who was present at the meeting?
Yes.
And we'll also
Yes.
be able to
Thank you,
put the,
Mark.
we'll also be able to put the link of the meeting and on the heading of each minutes.
Yeah. Yep, good point, Jeff. Thank you.
So Christy, your first things you may want to just note is who nominated who for this and who.
Yes.
So the first one, I believe Jake nominated the chair. And it was
Yes.
seconded by Lynn.
Thank you.
On the second one with the vice chair, that was Lynn, not made the nomination.
Nominating Jake.
And
And I seconded.
Martha second. And for you, you can blame Jake and Sean.
There we go.
All right, so now we have that all squared away. Anything else, Mike?
Sylvia.
We're so far
All
so
set.
good.
So far, so good, I believe.
All right, great. All right, so you can see first on our agenda, on our list, see if I can do this correctly, yeah, is to really take a look at the master plan. We are not doing that right now. We don't have the time. But what I'm going to ask everyone is that you take a look. That book is amazing. It is beautifully done. I think the budget must have been twice of what the budget you have now. And so we have no intention of trying to duplicate that effort. And I'm going to pause on all the different subsections till we get through some of the rest of this agenda. But really, I'm asking you as the committee members to take a look, especially from the, like the hat you are all wearing, whether you're on the Concom, Historic Commission, et cetera. What hat are you wearing? And so take a look, like community facilities, for example. Right, and so we ask you to take a look in that way, and what is it that is missing? What sort of recommendations happened, those 12 years ago now? And I know that Kelly and Mike, you've gone through all the recommendations to see what has been accomplished. We can also send that around, make that
Mike, and
available.
to refresh the board,
Yeah.
there was, 85 recommendations, I think, in the original not original master plan, but last master plan, was it 85?
So that by my count, which, it might be one or two off, but 82 total recommendations, 24, I believe, are substantially complete. 7 are in process, and 10 are moot or are impractical based on subsequent developments. So roughly half have been addressed in some way.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, you don't need to look at every single one, but please, in the hat you're wearing, please take a good, thorough look. What I noticed in looking at it at the old master plan is, aside from its length, it has certain sections that like, for example, there's a toolkit in there. We don't need to duplicate the toolkit. That is still a toolkit. We can put it even separately, but we don't need to duplicate that. Really, the first, I think it's like 60, 65 pages are the ones that really touch on the various topics. And so we want to look at what chapters and focus areas are important now, 12 years later. Are there chapters that weren't represented or are now sort of, we're no longer interested in that? So taking a look at those chapters and focus areas. What kind of formatting? I recommend looking at the Goffstown master plan as well as Auburn's master plan. They are much shorter, they are more succinct, and I think that will help our process. There also was a very unique outreach during that master plan. There was the Planapalooza. Wow, I think I said that right. That's a 10 center. And we're not going to do that. We're definitely not doing that. But we do want to create outreach elements. And so one is the Old Home Day. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. And then, of course, the process. So I think I've touched on most of this. Any questions so far from the group? Okay.
Mike, could you get the presentation on that screen? That's the one I can see anyway. Thanks. Perfect, thank you.
All right. So we've just done this part. We've talked about what worked and what didn't work. I'm going to make this smaller. Where are you? There.
Should be able to just minimize it.
It's not. Okay, let's just do that then. What like this is sort of, I already did this, but what community conditions have changed in the last dozen years? talked about the implementation section. And this is just a reminder, in actuality, if you go to the RSA's, a master plan actually only requires a vision and a land use section. All the rest is up to the community to decide what is important. One of the elements that I found was missing was an age-friendly component. I know you have a very active senior group here. I'm not talking about the community, what do we call that? The community center, the senior
Senior
community.
center.
Senior center? I'm talking about your senior, I'm not sure what they're called, their name, Mike.
Population.
The Baldwin?
The Senior Resource Committee. We are never letting you leave. So that group is quite active, and I got great feedback from them, but we're looking at an age-friendly component. And when I say age-friendly, what I'm talking about is, you know, Londonderry, we need to make sure Londonderry is an age-friendly community, so it's friendly for whether you are 8 years old or 80 years old. And so that regardless of your age or your ability, it's a welcoming community. There may be other components that are missing. All right. I'm going to skip current challenges. I think that's kind of obvious. Staffing. I have about 8 hours a week here in Londonderry because I have a whole different full-time job happening. But so staffing is a challenge, and that's why Suzanne is on the screen. Suzanne is on my team, and I have other members of my staff that are going to help with this process. They're going to create a web page. They're going to do a GIS story map for input. They're going to help in the process. And I've asked Suzanne to walk us through an example of what I'm talking about, but we're going to wait a few moments on that, Suzanne, so hold on to that example. So you'll see that. Other planning efforts, timeline. Okay, so where are we right now in the timeline? This is our first meeting, and we are talking about next steps and process. And also, we've talked about the survey questions. Ideally, we're going to, I don't know if we're already beyond our time frame here, but I wanted to get that survey out by the end of this month. That hasn't happened, so we're a little bit behind. We know that your Old Home Day, when does that start?
Middle of August.
Mid-August, right?
August 14th to August 17th.
Yes! She knows everything. So ideally, we have that survey ready by then because we want to get input on survey questions and have a QR code ready at that outreach effort so that people can start doing the survey. So that gives us a challenge, so that's about 2 weeks in time. Let's see, September 2nd, December 30th, that's when we hope to do analysis. I think that's going to back up about 2 or 3 weeks. And then by the end of September, I would love to have survey results to the planning board, which will probably be the first week in, the first meeting in October. And then once we have that survey, we're going to get to the next phase, the survey results and the analysis. We'll be, of course, keeping this group involved into the next phase and defining what that process looks like. All right, that's the steering committee, priorities for the 6 months. So I think we've done much of this. We've reviewed a lot of this. One of the things I want to make sure is that once the survey is out and ready, we're going to take advantage of you and my staff and start conducting interviews. And what I'm talking about is, for example, Martha, you're going to make sure you conduct interviews with the Concom. And what's important to them, go through that survey with them. Same thing with John and the Heritage Commission. Same with the Utilities Group. so that you reach out to all your stakeholders in your area. And so does that make sense with everyone? Yeah, okay. So that's that.
Cynthia, I have a question. Obviously you've done this a few times. The schedule that you just kind of showed us, it feels to me fairly aggressive.
Yes. That is because Mike and Jake said to me, we want a master plan done in 6 months. I told
All right, I'll
them
give you 9.
Backed off the 6 months a little bit, you know?
to 9 months, yeah, and that, as you can tell, is somewhat laughable. So
Somewhat.
I would like to be done in a year and a half. That's my goal. And, yeah,
There's a big difference between 6 months and a year and a half.
yeah, exactly, because did we mention the staffing constraints?
So that's my question, and potentially Mike and Jake, I'm looking at it from definitely the staffing aspect. I don't want to rush any of this. I don't want to rush this in that the data gathering. I think we're going to have some really great feedback and elicit a lot of responses from the community. We also don't want to extend it just to extend it. So, how hard is that 6-month timeline?
It's impossible.
Do you mean how flexible?
Are you asking how flexible or how
How flexible Jake and I are?
Yeah, how flexible
Not very.
can it be? Yeah. I mean, I think, realistically, obviously, Sylvia, when we first sat down, Mike and I never even talked, and we kind of had the same opinion of how quickly can we get it going and moving. I personally feel as though a year and a half is a little too long, but I think a year is reasonable. I see the staffing issue. I see, that 6 months is hard with a full staff. That's all they're dedicated to. But I wonder if a year is sufficient.
Yeah, so my perspective is similar. Obviously, Sylvia, you do this for a living, and you've done however many master plans you've done. It's more than I've done, that's for sure. But I guess the way that I approach the when I look at, and you alluded to this a little bit, when I look at the 2013 master plan, it is very well done. It is slick. It is bound up nicely. Lots of good images. And I think that the approach, it should have been looked at before a decade after its adoption. I think everybody acknowledges that. Yeah. But we're in the situation where the town has changed a lot in 10 years. A lot of the discussions that we're having every planning board meeting and every town council meeting of late center around the pace of development, the composition of development, traffic, land use, other issues like that. And I think that what I would, for what it's worth, I'm not a planner, but I have been around these issues for some reasonable period of time, and I am an attorney. I think that let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I think that when I look at I see 82 recommendations. And the fact that we accomplished half of those in a decade. From one standpoint, that's really impressive. From another standpoint, having 82 recommendations is almost like having no recommendations because it lacks focus. And I think that I would encourage the board to achieve what is achievable, not hold the thing open to as Sylvia said, replicate what we have in 2013. And let's do some real good. We should plan to come back to it periodically, not a decade later, but every couple of years to make sure that we don't get in this situation again.
And
that's my perspective.
I think that was part of my thing going into it is, I'd love to see, 10 things that we can really, really focus on instead of this expansive list of 82 items. I'd love to see 10 that we can really focus on. And back to Mike's point, this is a more frequent conversation than a decade later. And that's where it came to me of, well, let's get this done, is because to me, in a year and a half, we're already a year and a half later than we are today, and it's like, how much is gonna change inside of the year and a half, you know? So I think that was a lot of my emphasis behind, pushing this along as aggressively as we could, just to, you know, to get something that I feel as though the community really needs right now. You know, and I understand 6 months is obviously aggressive, but I do think we should, you know, for all intensive purposes, come up with a schedule that we feel as though we can meet, though it may be aggressive. To your point, you want a year and a half. To me, just a year and a half is it's what's going to change in a year and a half? How much more is going to happen in a year and a half that by the time we roll it out, we're like behind the 8 ball? You know what I mean? That's kind of the way I look at it. So, you know, is 10 months to a year something that's feasible if instead of, you know, again, let's find 10 really important things that we want to focus on, or 5 that we want to be a 5-year focus for this master plan, or do we want it to be longer? But, you know, to me, 8 to 12 months is probably somewhat realistic.
And I don't know if this is feasible, but I mean, can we start with an update of the 2013
Yeah.
edition and do a comprehensive rewrite down the road?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one
I
thing
was-
that this group could do is look at that 2012 plan and tell me, you know, we covered a dozen different focus areas. We only need 4.
Yeah.
If you tell me something like that, sorry, Jeff, are you saying something?
You know, this is about Roachek, yeah, this is about Roachek. Listen, you know, I have to go in a few minutes, but I have several thoughts. One, I never got the survey email. 2, is it possible to share this agenda by email? The only I got from Alicia was a notice of this meeting, and it was like 5 days before. And I have some client meetings sometimes at night, because most of my clients are municipal clients, like tonight. However, I agree with a 1-year time frame. I'm an architect, been doing master plans, not as many as you have, but for quite a long time. A year, and I also agree with any 2 suggestions are not tenable. It should be like 8 to 10 or 12. The plan should be reviewed biannually at least to see what progress is being made. Last but not least, I just want to say, is it possible to lock in dates for the next 2 to 3 months for this group? Because I don't want to miss one, being in my car again, but I had no choice this time. So if we can get those dates in advance, so we can book it in our calendars, that would be terrific.
Yeah, that's a good
Oh,
point.
one last thing, I'm sorry, one last thing. My suggestion is do a survey monkey of this group, where the questions to this group could be, what are your top 3 or 4 things from the last survey, last master plan? What are your 4 or 5 key hot buttons we should be addressing? That's my suggestion, so we can all see where we're coming from. Right now, I have no idea where anybody in this group is coming from.
Okay.
So Bob, just if I was understanding you right, it's Jake Butler talking. If I was understanding you right, you want to do just a survey of the board, a general survey of the board.
No, I mean, this master planning group that we're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. You want a survey of the 10 of us, just if I'm understanding that
I
right.
think we
Yeah.
I think it would make a lot of sense so we understand where we're coming from and what the hot buttons are.
Okay.
And see what commonalities we have or we don't, right?
Yeah.
Traffic, development, recreational amenities, you know, more age appropriate spread for town services for seniors versus younger people. Who knows what people in this group think, right?
Sure.
I don't.
At the beginning of the meeting, I mean, Sylvia gave us a little bit of homework, review the master plan, what do we keep, what do we leave, what do we add? So if we do a survey, as Robert, it'll get us
Would be
ahead
those
of the
3
game.
questions. What
Exactly.
do we keep? What do we have? What do we add? Yeah.
And-
All right, I can work with my
Simple
team.
survey.
I can work with my team on creating that. I understand, Bob, that you and Christy didn't have an opportunity to see the survey yet and the draft survey, and that is because it was developed over a month ago. And I've been getting.
Copy that. Okay,
I've been
copy.
getting feedback from, for example, the police department. I basically tackled one of the officers in the hallway for his feedback. I heard back from Lynn, from Martha, from Concom. So I'm happy to get your feedback on the various topics. So we can send that around, and we'll be looking at that in a moment as well.
Thank you. I just want to throw that in there because I have to go in 5 minutes to the client meeting, but I appreciate you giving me the time. Thank you.
And if you could just verify your emails, because I understand Martha didn't get emails, John didn't get emails, so I want to make sure.
Alicia has my email on toll boards. It's working now, so.
Okay. And so if you can just let me know after the meeting, that'd be great. All right, shall we keep going?
Sure.
I did have a thought on the timeline. I'm wondering if there's maybe like a happy medium there. If we take a look at what we have and then just, like you were saying, those 5 hot buttons, if we phase it out so that maybe there are certain elements that if we want to prioritize them, we can get them out sooner than
Yeah.
a year.
That's a very good idea. Like if you want, for example, a housing chapter
Yeah.
or a land use chapter, sooner than later, we can focus on that.
That's a good idea.
And that way, if some, like, sorry, Martha, if it's a utilities chapter, not always the most exciting, important, but not always so exciting, that might be wait a little while. Or, you know, I think that's something that we can add into the survey, your specific survey, on what elements, and we'll include Mike and Kelly on the survey as well. What elements are the most important for you? Okay?
That's perfect.
Yeah, I think so.
And I'll bet you that list is pretty similar for a lot of us.
Yeah, yeah. But to Bob's point, it would be good to just get it, you know, now we kind of all know where everybody or what the general consensus is, I think is a good idea.
And then we'll also add some open-ended if there are things missing. So we will be asking those sorts of questions. So I'll try to keep it to 5 questions.
That'd be
All
great.
right?
That also allows us to identify those applicable milestones and plan that way.
Yeah.
So then we'll understand what the true timeline really is. I'm a project manager by trade, so I'm always hesitant to kind of say, oh, let's get this done in 6 months, let's get this done in 12 months, when we, don't necessarily know what those goals are.
Right.
The resources we have.
Right. Yeah, because if I go to my staff and tell them we're doing a master plan in 6 months, they'll all laugh at me. But if I say we're going to do the land use and housing chapter in 6 months, they'll be okay.
That's fair.
All right? All right. Are we ready to move on?
But just, Bob, I know you said you have to go at 5:40, I believe. We will, is it fair to say at the end of the meeting, we can probably set dates for the next, I don't know, say
Fine.
4 or 5 months?
Fine with me.
Yeah.
Do you have your schedule?
Yeah, this would be super helpful. I just felt bad about this, but I do public sector, public safety work. A lot of my clients are municipalities and they want to meet at night, you know? So I felt really bad, but I did the best I could. If we have the dates, we could, do my best to personally come.
Yeah, we can do that.
If not tonight, then within a day or two, I'm sure
Yeah.
we can coordinate those.
Yeah.
We could do a doodle poll for that, if that would work,
Absolutely.
on best times. This is a good time for me anyway, because I'm sort of still here working on, I try to work Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons. Not always works that way because of other commitments, but we'll try to include a variety. But I'm gonna guess most people want to meet after 5. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Closer to 5 for me is
Yeah.
the better, but
Okay,
I can always make it back here in the area, even if I'm in the seacoast for the day.
okay.
So these are public meetings, right? So there's been some feedback about not having these meetings too early because the working public can't get to them sometimes. You might consider that when you set your time.
Yeah, the problem with that is I have so many other commitments that it is really hard for me to be here in the evening. So
We can
What's the
alternate.
frequency of these meetings? Is it gonna be monthly? Is it?
I would like in the beginning to meet every 2 weeks because we're just starting off after maybe 4 meetings, I think we can taper off, but initially, we're gonna need to meet every 2 weeks. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does to me.
Especially because, for example, coordinating the Old Home Day table, the master plan table, you can't pay us for, 4 days, 8 hours a day. You don't want to pay us for that kind of time. We need volunteers. We need volunteers from the Conservation Commission, from the Heritage Commission, from Planning Board to be there. And coordinating that effort is going to take quite a bit of work. So I'm going to be actually looking to the, if it's feasible, other members of the public that might be interested, if that seems reasonable. I mean, we had how many candidates? Like 8 candidates for Christy and Bob's spots on the master plan. I would love to ask them to come and also volunteer so that they feel they have ownership of the master plan. Does that make sense, Mike?
Fantastic.
Yeah, okay. All right, so thank you for not shooting anything down yet, so that is good. All right, so we're talking about the first 6 months here. Process committees, subcommittees. I don't want to get too far down this road. One of the things I'm going to be asking this group is to develop interview worksheets. So that's something that we will probably create and then I'll ask for input on. Ways to increase public participation. I wonder if it's a good moment, Suzanne, for you to be able, let's see if I can ask you to share your screen, make co-host.
Yeah, let's see. I need you to stop sharing first.
Okay, stop sharing. All right, so as far as community input, that's usually for master plans, that is something that's a priority. And so I have asked Suzanne to share what we're doing with the Chester master plan. So take it away, Suzanne.
So, yeah, hi everyone. I'm Suzanne Neighbor, Principal Planner with Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. Sylvia asked me to be here tonight because we happen to be working on a master plan update with the town of Chester right now. So we started on that in full force a little bit earlier this year, and I can show you a little bit about our timeline. But can you all see right now this is the landing page for the project? I think so. It looks like I'm seeing it in the room.
We can see it, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So one of the first things we did when we had the kickoff meeting was talk through kind of creating a centralized resource that everyone can go to, whether it's about filling out a survey link, learning about upcoming events, getting some background on the master plan process in general. So I'll just walk you through about a little of the content that we put together. This is a relatively easy lift for our team to choose. This is a story map. It's a pretty simple website to put together. A couple of highlights. We did take a little bit of time to create a visual identity for the planning process because we wanted to do some extensive public engagement. We want people to feel like there's continuity whenever any materials are put out about the process. So we are not a graphic design shop, and we set some expectations that, we'll workshop this with the tools we have available in Canva. But we were able to come up with a logo that the steering committee was really happy with. The website itself covers it's pretty basic, but it's kind of a good central location for understanding what's happening. So we have what is a master plan with a really kind of plain language description of what's happening. And you can also click to view the 2015 master plan. It opens up in a new tab and folks can kind of see what was there previously. We then talk about the process and the fact that, their planning board has enlisted SMHPC to kind of guide this work. And we have a group of steering committees who are also meeting regularly to make this as effective as possible. And we also did a very high-level visualization of what the process is going to look like. So what we're aiming for is something closer to, I would say, a kind of 14 to 16-month process. So right now, we are kind of wrapping up this building a shared foundation component. We did a community survey that over 400 folks responded to. We had a visioning activity that came to a variety of public events. So the steering committee really took ownership of going to community events that were of interest to them, showing up on certain nights at the transfer station, organizing an interview with the local public access TV. So they've been really thinking through strategically what are the ways to get a hold of as many different Chester residents as possible and get them responding. Now we're going to be analyzing survey data and really moving into this kind of aligning our goals and strategies. We're basically, like right now, that's on my desktop with, 90 responses from 412 individuals in Chester. And really calling that data and understanding what are some key takeaways and findings that we want to report out on. What are some questions that are a little bit stickier that we actually need to talk about in further depth, either through a community workshop or through focus group discussions with local experts. And we're also working on putting together a youth engagement opportunity. And then our goal is to have a very interactive review and adoption phase with the steering committee, or plan review, like as we work on drafts, they're going to be contributing to that as well. And so we're hoping to basically have a plan ready for adoption around this time this year. We talked about inclusive community engagement, and we also worked with the steering committee to put together a simple FAQ that kind of touches upon a few frequently asked questions that we think people will be asking if they're not as familiar with what's a master plan, why are we doing this. We wanted to have a centralized resource that people can come back to. You are more than welcome to adapt any of this material. There's no point in reinventing the wheel if there's something that you really like about it, having an FAQ. One thing I would point out too, and this is something that the Chester Steering Committee really did during our kickoff, was establish some guiding principles for our process, just to make sure, we can keep ourselves honest and check back. Like, are we actually adhering to these things that we said we wanted to do? So for the Chester Steering Committee, there's a major focus on being as inclusive as possible. We really wanted to push the public outreach and engagement component. We're really looking for transparent communication and effective dialogue, and looking at this as an opportunity to foster a sense of community. And then, of course, this will be a data-informed process, and we'll be drawing upon resources at SMHPC to make sure that that gets woven into the plan. This community survey section used to be right up top. There was a 6-week period where we were really pushing that out, and so this was a little bit more elaborated, but now that that survey is closed, we have moved it down the list on the website. And activities and events, we've done a lot more than this, but these were items that we were planning ahead for, where we thought there'd be particularly good attendance. So we kind of posted these a few weeks ahead of those particular events. And for your Old Home Day, that's a perfect opportunity to really start advertising now if there's going to be a presence there. And then we have a point of contact if anybody has additional questions. So that's just the kind of basic overview of a website that we found very useful, and it may be useful for this process as well. So is there anything else you wanted me to touch upon?
Just to be clear, so in the beginning, you did also have like a button right up top on taking that survey, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's no longer there because the survey's closed.
Right, so I just,
So
yeah.
At the beginning, community survey was the first thing on this list, the first thing up top, right next to the Chester Master Plan. It's like, we want everyone to take this survey.
Right.
Here's the link to get to it. So that was like the initial messaging for the first couple of months until the survey closed.
Any questions for Suzanne? So we can create this relatively quickly for the town of Londonderry. And as Suzanne said, we can utilize some of the work here already done so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, a master plan is a master plan. It's a foundational document and tool. So, Suzanne and my team are ready to go when this group is ready to go.
So the QR code would lead to that webpage?
They-
Or-
Yes.
So that they could do the survey and get information?
Yes, you could do
Exactly.
that, yeah.
Exactly. We wanted to create a QR code that was evergreen, so you wouldn't have to have all of these postcards printed with one QR code, and then the survey link goes dead, and that QR code isn't valuable anymore. So we basically, all roads lead to this website. Whenever there's a new opportunity, there might be a secondary survey, there might be another event you want to point people to, but you can always use the same QR code. And I was actually thinking about I would say that one of the things that the steering committee advanced, like after we already had an initial strategy, someone was driving through Salem, and they were like, oh, hey, Salem's doing a master plan right now, and we saw all of these yard signs out. We want to do that here. So we ended up creating, they budgeted for like maybe 100 yard signs that featured that QR code. It was like, get involved in the Chester master plan, learn more here, and posted those around town as well. So I would say that like people heard it from all possible angles, yet they could not avoid it when they were moving about their day in Chester.
Thank you so much.
Quick question, Suzanne. So one of the things you mentioned was Chester creating guiding principles. I think that, it makes sense that that is a path that we would absolutely want to kind of go down. Could you walk me through how those guiding principles emerge and such?
Yeah, and that, in fact, hold on, I pulled up a couple more files as reference for myself. So when we kicked off the process, I basically blocked out a 2-hour time period to be in the steering committee, and we went there in person and kind of brought some breakfast, made it kind of a work session. And, the first half of the day, we talked about basically our strategic reflections to guide the master plan process. So some of the things you're already addressing, like what are our implementation successes and challenges? You guys are already well along your way on that front. But that's because I think that was something that, we talked about with the town planner. Having guiding principles for our process was something that was really of interest to making sure that this is a very transparent and engaging and inclusive approach. That was a big part of our conversation, and we just did a brainstorming exercise, got a lot of feedback from them, and then I distilled it into those draft guiding principles that they signed off on.
Yeah, I think from the standpoint of having guiding principles, it allows us to, like you mentioned, keep the conversations focused, keep them moving, kind of we're able to trace back our conversations or decisions to those guiding principles. So I would definitely, if that's not within our kind of our timeline, we're simply maybe like we're kind of incorporating that into our timeline.
Yeah, and I would say
I think very critical to run this with you.
It does not have to be a heavy lift. I mean, really, it was like out of our 2-hour kickoff meeting, it was probably 15, 20 minutes of intensive discussion. It was like, I wrote it on flip chart, we all heard each other, and then I basically just reworked it on the back end and shared it out, and people gave the thumbs up.
Perfect. Yeah. And you know what? This committee here, we all, in our heads, I would imagine know exactly what we want. And, to Bob's point earlier, that's sort of the kind of stuff that definitely get us aligned.
Yeah. Another thing we kind of, another major topic we visited during that same discussion, and it kind of intersected with the guiding principles conversation, I'd have to say. It had to do with like, what are emerging local issues, priorities, hot button topics that we need to be really cognizant of as we shape our process, and also who are the key stakeholders that we really need to involve, what are the engagement tools and techniques that we really want to have at our fingertips for making this happen. So in some ways, like, we kind of talk about all of those things together, and that also informs the guiding principles.
Jeff, I'm curious, speaking of these creating principal guidelines, I'm wondering if it would make sense for us to, in the survey we're creating for this committee, to sort of draft a few, and then you all can add to those and sort of prioritize those, and we could make that part of the survey. What's important to you as far as guiding principles? Does that make sense?
I'd almost wonder if you could ask the board in the survey to, write down one thing that they see as a guiding principle.
We could do
And then when the
that.
survey comes to the board, we could come back to the board and say, oh, okay, let's, we'll pick not 10 of them, but 5 of them, and we'll rework them together as a group, but get it
Okay.
out there in that survey, so we all have it beforehand, at whatever the next meeting is.
Okay,
Yep, absolutely.
sure.
Jeff, does that sound all right to you?
That sounds like a great plan to kind of, get a, at least in my opinion, as one board member, it's definitely a good plan to just get our ideas on that paper, do that survey, identify the themes, we'll workshop it out, and then, and Suzanne will, carve it up and give us guiding principles in 15
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah,
I'll be the back seat, yeah.
that'd be awesome.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at our time. It's 5:56. To best spend the next maybe 20 minutes, what is your preference? Would you like me to review the sections in the existing master plan? Would you like me to review the draft survey?
I think we could probably skip over what's existing. I think it's more important to talk a little bit about the draft survey. And Jeff, I'm sorry, I probably should have let you go first.
No, that's perfectly okay, Jake. I'm obviously, I'm man in the, so, but yeah, I would definitely want to focus on the draft survey. I also want to, because it's come up a few times, obviously Old Home Day, and really kind of solidify a plan on how we, want to, what do we need to do? What are those tasks? To identify volunteers, who's going to volunteer, what's the timing, all of those other tasks that we definitely need to kind of coordinate. But I definitely, let's, probably start with the interview, or the survey questions.
No, that's the wrong one. Hold on.
They're just trying to find something, Jeff.
It's right here.
Yeah?
Yeah, please.
Not that I'm any better at this than you.
Well, while they're doing that, Old Home
Maybe
Day
make the other
is,
things
what does it
small,
go,
like
10 to
that.
Get rid of
3,
this.
something like that?
Yeah.
So if we just chopped it up where a couple people are at the booth for
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that?
2 hours
you know what the issue
and break it up,
We
they will
want to
go
get rid of
fast and
that
easy.
one.
Absolutely.
And if somebody wants,
know what
from the
this
public
is
wants to
here.
volunteer
I
to
don't either.
join
I'm
us,
scared of
Absolutely.
that's all good.
Absolutely.
And if we have, propaganda with those QR codes on them,
That's
we
the
can
one we
even,
don't
if
need.
we have enough
Oh,
people
no,
walk around.
survey
and
outline?
listen,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
A lot
Is
of
that
people
it?
won't come
Oh
to
my
a
God.
booth, they're
Oh,
afraid
yes,
you're
that's
asking
it.
them
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
something.
exactly.
You're gonna sell them something.
All
So
right.
if you're just like passing that out. I think that
Thank
would
you.
be
Absolutely.
worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Okay, can you see what's right on the screen right now with the draft master plan survey? You can? Okay. All right. A little bit of why you're seeing things in highlight as we go through this. If it's green, I had a comment on it, but I didn't know what to do with it really, because it's already a long survey, so I didn't move ahead. If it's in yellow highlight, it means I've incorporated that as a suggestion. All right. So this is in multiple sections, and one of the ideas that Kelly and I had was, although this is long, we wondered if there was a way to, and I'll have to check it with my team, it's sort of a survey formatting issue, is maybe some people don't want to take the whole survey, some people will skip questions, but is there a way to just put up certain sections? That's sort of a later conversation with my own team, but let's look at each section. So this first section is the profile of the individual participants. So as an example, are you a Londonderry resident, seasonal, business owner? That was the comment here. If you're a business owner, what street is your business located on? And then one person wanted more information about the business. Do you own or rent your home? Do you live with family and friends? What type of home do you live in? How long have you lived in Londonderry? Are you hoping to retire in Londonderry? Who do you live with, whether you're alone or spouse or friends, and what's your age group? In particular, we want to make sure that the demographics are spread, and so that we have representation from all these age groups. And then the community vision. So with a little explanation here, thinking about the future, what would you like to see Londonderry be known as a center of excellence for? That was a recommended question. What skills, knowledge do you think students in the future will need to succeed in a much more technical future? So that was a question I was questioning, whether we need that. When thinking about Londonderry's future, what would be the most important element to improve upon? Now, those of us who analyze surveys, we hate fill-in questions because it's a lot of work. As Suzanne knows now, she's looking at 400. For Bedford, our master plan survey that we assisted Bedford with on age friendly, this was years ago. This was like back in 2017. We had over 800 responses. So fill-ins are tough. Not that they're all altogether avoided, but anyway, so you can see a few of those. So, and this is one of them. When thinking about Londonderry's future, what would be the most important element to improve upon?
Is there a way, like, for that question, for example, there's a few buckets that we could fill in? Is it going to be like, in the future, what's the most important element? Is it housing? Is it education? Is it something completely different, but just like a checkbox?
Yeah, that's a possibility, and you'll see that as we go along. When thinking about aging in Londonderry, what would improve your ability to stay in town? So you'll see that question. And I'll send everybody this again so that you can look at this more thoroughly and provide more input.
Sylvia, can I interrupt with a question?
Please.
This is strictly electronic, right?
This is electronic.
Okay. We
No,
talked about.
no, not strictly electronic. We will have paper surveys for those, like, maybe there's someone at the senior center who doesn't want to do a computer version. Or maybe there's others who don't want to. For example, when we have their Old Home Day, we'll have paper copies. And this has happened in other communities where, you have people who just want to sit down. Plus, Londonderry Old Home Days, there's a lot happening. I'm guessing.
There's a lot happening.
There's a lot of walking. People get tired. They want a seat. Oh, well, if you're going to sit down at this booth, you're going to fill out this survey. So we will have paper copies. Yeah.
Okay. To go to your point about age friendly.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna mention that I forgot, that when the survey component used to be up top for the Chester webpage, we did list, in addition to the QR code, the 2 locations in town where you could pick up survey copies. And we made sure that those were printed in large print, figuring that most people who are wanting to take it on paper might appreciate that, and make sure that the return address of where you needed to take it back to was included. So some people would take it home and bring it back. We ended up probably having about 30 of the responses coming from hard copy responses.
Any thought about printing the survey and putting it in the Londonderry Times, for example, that hits every home here in town?
I would ask to put the QR code.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't
in
print the
Londonderry
survey, but I'd print the
Not
QR
whole
code.
survey.
Yeah.
They won't like that. But the QR code, for example, one of the surveys we've recently assisted with in the town of Wyndham, so this was during their voting, this was back in February or March, I can't remember. But we had the QR codes plus hard copy. We had in one day, we had something like 400 online surveys done that day because everyone came in. There's not a lot, there's some people who like to talk, some people don't like to talk, but they all saw our booth. They came up, they took their cell phone, they looked at the QR code, and while they're waiting to vote, they started voting on our survey. They started doing it.
Nice.
So we have someone from filling out the survey twice or 3 times.
That doesn't really happen.
I will say that they just take a while. You can't actually, one thing that does prevent it is you can only fill it out from
Yeah,
one
they
IP
lose it.
address
Yeah.
once, right?
Okay.
So that could be a challenge if you have everybody in the house using the same computer, but for the most part, we didn't hear a lot of complaints on that front. As far as I'm concerned, these are lengthy and time consuming, require a lot of thought. Somebody needs to fill it out twice. Hopefully you have such an abundance of responses that that's lost in the statistics. One other thought, Sylvia, as we're thinking through the survey process, I do completely agree, you want to drive as many people as possible to completing it online, simply because in terms of efficiency, that's a much more significant time suck for us to have to input the hard copies. It really is, that will use up budget that we can spend on other things.
Yeah, it's painful.
What's the survey platform you use?
SurveyMonkey.
So it tallies the responses automatically, right?
Yes.
On the multiple choice.
So just so I understand, so if someone fills in a paper survey, you're essentially taking that paper survey and putting it into SurveyMonkey, like that.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
So I would deter that being like
You are
dominant.
saying-
Guard is the way to go.
Yeah.
And while I'm already interrupting everyone, but just note that we had the same discussion about kind of open-ended responses with Chester, that it's very hard to analyze. We want to have multiple choice wherever we can. And in the end, what we decided was that, like, what you have for number 12 is great, because you have multiple choice, and then you have a chance for people to give a little feedback if they choose to, and a lot of people will not do that. So, and those who do, one of the things we're learning, and this is kind of great to be talking, because we are all learning things in real time from each other right now, especially with the advances in technology. We are starting to look into some AI analysis to help with just like big picture themes that are coming out from the write-in statements. But that will help us streamline that analysis piece, hopefully. We are figuring it out as I speak. Tammy and I are kind of talking about kind of the alternatives for how to theme all the open-ended responses.
Yeah, we helped the State Commission on Aging years ago with their questionnaire and analyzing all the over 3,000 responses, and we used an Excel spreadsheet, and that's how we helped figure out, categories of answers. But anyway, let's continue. The next section, community facilities and services. This is kind of, Christy, what you were talking about. So here, we're looking at town facilities. And if they think the facility is excellent, good, adequate, poor, or they don't know. And so I'm looking for you all to tell me what here doesn't make sense and what makes sense. Like, instead of assessing and the building and zoning, all of that, should we have the town office as one facility? Things like that. So I'm looking for input here. And then we have town department services. Actually, it was our police officer that pointed this out to me. That's why this is in yellow. And so the same thing, this is town department services. And then we get into, and this was another suggestion, I forget, I think from the gentleman from the senior center, who suggested that I provide specifics for different departments. So here's one on the town manager, and I'm looking for input on this from the different groups. So one on building and planning, one on the town clerks. And this is really, and they're very similar. Would it be desirable, for example, for the town clerk, financing and assessing to provide following services? And this really talks about their hours, different connections on the website. And some of these may not make sense because I don't know enough about your services and your different things. And I know that, Kirsten, we were going to have a conversation, so I bet you know exactly what I'm supposed to do here, so. And I have sent it to all these departments, I just haven't gotten the feedback. So I'm looking to you for more input.
I think one thing that's interesting when I see a couple of those, scroll up a little bit to
Sure.
keep going, a little more. There we are. So there's a couple that I think are interesting and should be pointed out. provide public office meeting hours. Mike, I feel like you've kind of started doing that inside of your town halls, and publish monthly updates. I think somebody in the crowd has started doing that as well, and I want to say it's on a bi-weekly basis, no?
With the month of July off, yes.
Yeah. So just
Thank you for,
to point out,
Thank
you
you
know,
for
there's a
pointing that
couple
out.
things, this is stuff people are talking about doing. There's a couple things that the town is already,
Right.
without this, has started to implement. So I just want to point that out.
Right, so I'm definitely
Thank you,
gonna, I know this can be improved on,
Yeah.
no
Oh, yeah.
doubt, no
Yeah.
doubt. And even the numbering is wonky. Every time I get in here, I'm looking at, what is this VWXY? So don't worry about formatting. All right, and this is just, you can see this is crazy. How do you currently get information? This is really an important question. We have found this to be critical in many of our surveys. And so I did get some input on this.
I think we probably ought to include the Londonderry Times on this list.
Yeah, I know it says other
Londonderry-
print media, but it might be good to
Yep,
specify in particular.
Londonderry Times.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should talk.
Yeah.
Probably also some of our less friendly websites that seem to put information out there.
I think that's valuable information
Yeah,
to have.
no, absolutely.
So whatever this group feels like should be included, please let me know. And I'll get this out. I'm gonna fix some of this formatting because it's driving me nuts. But I'll get this out by Monday. So I'm hoping what you're gonna see Monday is this and also that survey we talked about. So I'll be working with Suzanne on that survey. Okay. How do you feel about how do you feel communications could be improved? Which social media platform do you presently use? I did get good feedback on that. Oh, this is just getting crazy. Is there a if a town-wide emergency such as flooding, major storm, or other disaster event, where is the first place you would get information? That was a requested.
Does anybody get any information anywhere but Facebook?
That's what I was just thinking.
I don't think, like, maybe this is your plan, I'm not sure, but are you gonna be creating TikTok videos?
You know, stay tuned. Stay tuned. I've got some rabbits up under my hat.
All right, some general issues. This is really to take this list, and so we understand what the priorities are. This, I think, was intended to be a ranking. So in SurveyMonkey, you can actually rank order. So you order it, and that's what we will also do with the different chapters for you all. So that would be a ranking order. All right, thank God we started one again. This next section, Section C, regional concerns. So you can see some of the things here. What are the greatest regional assets? What impacts from outside Londonderry are you most concerned with? Land use, I'm looking at my time, okay. So these are some of the different land use issues. I can't go over all of them. Housing. So this says, which type of housing construction do you feel is needed? So that's an important housing one. And note they are defined, so that's important. Is residential growth occurring too fast, too slow, just right, or unsure?
Can I pause on the housing, Sylvia? And
Yeah.
just, so if you could scroll back up.
Yes.
I think it might be valuable to have on this list an option for people to say none.
Okay.
I
This
think that
is-
a lot of people recognize
needed.
that there
None.
is a housing shortage, there's a housing crisis, whatever you want to call it, but I also think that there are people in Londonderry who think that we've done our fair share over the past decade, and we just don't need that much more here in Londonderry. I think that that would be valuable information to have if people feel that way.
I think you're right. All right, so far, I was supposed to add, where is it? Londonderry Times, right?
Right.
Okay, this is Londonderry Times.
Kirsten, how much time do you need?
5 minutes and then Christie, and then talking to Christie later.
Okay. I just want to make sure there's enough time for you.
Okay, Londonderry
I do
Times,
need
I like
to,
that. Where am I
my
now?
church is singing
Housing?
the national anthem. I'm supposed to be
Add
helping
none.
direct them
Very shortly?
Add
currently.
Yeah.
None.
If you have to go, don't
That-
be afraid to
that's-
go.
You're gonna lose your
valid.
secretary.
We
Recorded.
get a recording.
Okay.
Okay, are you
steal?
still up for, I'm wrapping up, I swear I'm
Yeah.
wrapping up.
If you want to wrap up, I just want to make sure we have enough time for Kirsten and a little bit of time between
Yeah,
this
I'm-
meeting and the next,
Let's do a solid stop at 6:30, how's that?
including her, including Kirsten.
I'm sneaking away because I'm supposed to be helping my church prep for singing the national anthem at the Fisher Cats on Saturday.
Okay,
Thank you. Rebecca.
So I'm gonna give you a hard stop at 6:25. How about that? So she's got 5 minutes. Yeah.
okay.
Jeff, are you okay with that? Thank you.
All right, let's see. Then we get into some of this, for example, based on your best estimation, does Londonderry offer a suitable selection for housing for younger residents wanting to buy their first home? This sort of gets into that age-friendly element. And the same thing for older adults. Let's see, historic and cultural resources. And I'll definitely, John, want to know more what your thoughts are here. So should the town continue to protect its historic and cultural sites? And then we have some specifics about different methods here. Indicate the level of importance you feel the town should give the following historic and cultural preservation methods.
If you could go back for a sec, you had a question about both for young and old housing. I think there has to be an affordability component, because I think there's probably sufficient housing. There's 15 plus, 55 plus communities in this town, but there's a whole question of affordability. That seems to be,
I think we do that here, smaller affordable housing.
okay.
That's in with the group. Does that work for you, John?
Sometimes people don't necessarily put smaller and affordable in the same, sometimes they want affordable housing but not smaller housing.
Here's the thing, people get their hackles up when I just write affordable housing. People think it's gonna bring in.
They think it's cheap housing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Section 8.
And so I say smaller, typically, more affordable is smaller housing. I've not seen McMansions that are affordable. But so that's why I associate smaller with affordable. But if you have a different idea?
Yeah.
No,
No.
that makes sense once you explain why.
I'd be honest with you, I'm not sure I agree with that, because a
Okay.
lot of the single-story 55-plus houses in this community are as expensive as the older multi-level homes.
Oh, no, I agree
absolutely.
with that. That's why I'm like, okay, smaller but affordable.
Okay.
But
We have to look at it.
I'm totally welcome to input. I can scratch smaller.
Maybe you put that in the definition, the explanation that not necessarily.
Affordable housing, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Cheap.
Affordable housing, and then
Typically
in the
smaller.
definition, typically a
Fair,
smaller.
I like that. That's a good compromise. I like it. And I have it already, and it's typically smaller. Yeah, it's right there. Okay. Any other thoughts while I'm flying through? I've got 5 minutes, so let's look at the different sections. We've started with Section D, Historic and Cultural Resources. It also includes natural resources and open space. I'm not going to go through. Section E is on transportation. It's a very large section here. Section F is on economic development. And I think that ends up with recreation. So what I'll do is I will send everybody, I'm going to adjust all that formatting. And then I will do what we've talked about so far and include thoughts and then send it out, and very happy to hear all your input. All right, and I will, anything you think that's an open-ended question we don't need, that you think I can scratch, I'm really anxious to hear that. All right.
Just,
Thank you, Sylvia.
Really quick, so if you're sending the survey out Monday, to this group, latest on Monday, when would you like feedback back?
I would like it by Friday.
Friday. Does that work for everybody?
Yep. And I'll write that in the email. And if if you're like, for example, you know, I know Bob's a part of the zoning. I've already sent it to the zoning chair, but if you want to go back to your own committees and, you know, forward it to others, you know, this is your plan. This is your survey, your town survey. I want to hear about it. I want to hear what your thoughts are. Okay?
Thank you.
I will stop sharing. There we go.
Kirsten, I think the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, again. I'm pretty sure you've all seen me sitting here before, so I'm going to be very, very brief and keep this high level because you all have heard this spiel. As a town committee that advises our governing board, you are considered covered by the 91A Right to Know law. The 91A Right to Know law has two major components, one of which governs meetings of advisory bodies to the public, to the select board, and one of which covers governmental records. When you are scheduling meetings, they are required to have 24-hour notice, that's 24 business hours, and they must be open to the public, and that is any time a quorum of you are meeting. This particular body has 10 members. 6 of you constitute a quorum for meeting and voting purposes. You have no alternate members, so that does mean that in order for you to have an official meeting, you'll need 6 people present, or present and on virtual as long as you adhere to the guidelines under 91A. Please remember that if you have any virtual participants, all votes must be done by roll call. So just keep that in mind as you move forward. Your meetings need to be posted 2 places, including online and somewhere physically on the premises. And myself and Cameron can help you out with that. The second part is governmental records. Governmental records include everything, but include documents, recordings, emails, text messages, but are not limited to those things. Those governmental records must be available to the public for inspection upon request. Now, the wonderful, shiny, lovely thing about this board is that 9 of the 10 of you already have a working town email address. So I don't need to do anything for y'all. And the reason I pulled up with Christy is because I made an appointment with her next week to set up her email and go over all the details of this with her. Meeting minutes must be posted within 5 business days. And those minutes must include, as we said earlier, at minimum, the time, date, location of the meeting, who was present, any votes and actions that were taken. And the time meeting was called to order and adjourned. One small detail that I have been asked to relay to all the boards from those who work at home, who watch at home. Please keep in mind that these microphones work very, very poorly when you're leaning back. Feel free to sit back when you're not talking, but when you are talking, please lean forward and speak into the microphone so people can hear you. That's also going to be incredibly important for Christy when she's doing her minutes. I have tried to take minutes sometimes, and I have a slightly few less hairs because of that. Anything else that I'm missing, Mike? I think that's...
Thank you, Kirsten. That was excellent. I would just point out that if there are email difficulties or technical difficulties, Kirsten is your point of contact, and she can walk you through how to sort those out.
Yep. I've done this literally hundreds of times at this point, so I'm good. One other note, just an update on, just because you've mentioned Old Home Day several times, y'all are already registered for a booth. I filled out that form. Jake, you probably got an email from me saying that congratulations, you're registered for a booth. Yep. So you have a booth, Old Home Day. The booths in the Common are from 11:30 to 4. Please let me know what I can do to help out y'all with your publicity around the survey there.
Did you just volunteer to be at our old homestay booth?
Absolutely not. I'm everywhere on Old Home Day. I am otherwise engaged on Old Home Day. Thank you very much, Mr. Butler. All right. Does anybody have any questions at all about 91A? That was easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kirsten.
Thank you, Kirsten.
So John, who's did not get the draft survey, if he could check with you on that email.
How do you want to handle dates?
Yeah. Jeff, do you want to set a few dates now, or do you want recommendations? Maybe Sylvia can give the board a few recommendations and we can respond via email, or would you rather pick dates now?
So I like the idea of the doodle. If we could focus on either Tuesday or Thursday.
Sure.
I do want to obviously, respect community's time as well. So let's move forward with the doodle survey. I'd like to have a follow-up meeting in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, if possible. But we'll confirm, we can work to confirm that, this week.
Could we would it be all right, Jeff, if we did, if we confirmed a meeting now for 2 weeks from now, and then Sylvia can send out the survey for the rest of them, and we'll obviously have the results of the survey through that, but we could at least get a confirmation for 2 weeks from now? Or something on or around 2
August
weeks from now?
15th. Actually, hold on. 1, 2. That's the week of Old Home Day.
2 weeks from today is the 8th.
I'm thinking we should actually meet next week.
Sure.
Because that's the week
Before Old Home Day.
before Old Home Day. So
Yeah.
how does next Thursday at 5, between 5 and 6 sound for everyone?
August 1st?
Yeah.
Let's just check the town website to make sure there isn't any conflict there.
There's a 6 o'clock meeting that I can move into Sunnycrest.
Okay, wonderful.
How are you for that, Suzanne? And can we Zoom then too? Okay, because I'm going to be asking Suzanne to Zoom.
Yeah, I could Zoom for that.
So August 1. So we might meet like every week for,
I was gonna
2
say,
weeks.
to me, it almost sounds like maybe another 2 or 3 meetings have almost gotta be weekly.
to just, I
To
think.
get us
that-
to Old
I
Homes
think-
Day.
well,
To get momentum.
Yeah.
I think 2 more meetings. So that would be the 1st and what, the 8th? If we could do that, that would be ideal. If everyone could take a quick look and see if the 8th would work. That's right? I did my math right.
The August 8th
Yeah,
at 6 o'clock.
yeah, I would worry for you if I didn't do that right.
At 6 or at 5?
I'd ask between 5 and 6 again, if
Between
that
5 and 6.
works for everybody.
Yeah, so pick a time.
5:30, right down the middle. Let's do 5:30.
5:30?
Yep.
Okay. 5:30 to 6 o'clock?
That's not gonna,
5:30 to 6:30?
we're just gonna meet for 30 minutes?
Yeah, 5:30 to 6:30.
Sorry, 5:30 to 6:30.
Yep.
And August 1, you also want that 5:30 to 6:30, or do you like 5 to 6?
I don't see why not. 5:30 to 6:30?
5:30 to 6,
Yeah.
all right.
And then the
we'll-
rest of them we could throw on this doodle machine Jeff keeps talking about.
Doodle poll,
Doodle poll.
thank you.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's fine, but if Thursdays is emerging as our meeting time, then we may want to just.
Every Thursday for the next 6 months.
Until
No.
it's done, yeah.
No,
we
no.
will tailor it down, but we're definitely tailor that down, so.
Okay,
Cool.
so we've got the 1st and the 8th from 5:30 to 6:30.
And then we'll put a doodle poll together for the rest so we can get the other board members in and
Yep.
go from there.
All right. That's 6:30 on the dot.
Mr. Chair, are you planning to solicit public comment?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a huge proponent of public comment at these types of meetings. I do want to strategically put it in, so it's not wasting the public's time. So ideally, I would absolutely love to entertain that, and by entertaining that, that would extend our meeting time.
Which it is what it is.
Which is an hour. So say if we have public comment for 15 minutes, depending on the week, you know, we could have, I mean, it's incredibly difficult to actually predict. You know, have it 15 minutes on topic about the master plan, and then we would have 45-minute work sessions. I'm not sure if we would be able to accomplish items in 45 minutes, so we may need to have an hour, 15-minute meeting.
And just for the record, Mr. Chair, this evening, there's nobody from the public in attendance.
Thank you.
You know, if the group would be willing, if we can get that survey out by Monday, if you can do it by Thursday, we'd be able to talk about the results.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm challenging everybody to do it right away. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Would it be possible to get a copy of that scorecard from the last master plan, the things?
Yes, I will circulate
Just so
that.
we're
Yep.
not making suggestions for things that have already been done.
Good idea.
Anything else?
I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Not from staff, Mr. Chair, thank you.
I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I would also like to vote by roll call because I am here remotely, so in accordance with any, you know, I was saying 91A, we would have to vote by roll call, so.
Right, you want to start?
I,
Say your name.
John Mahan.
I, Marge Bedoy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Jake Butler.
Aye, Lynn Wiles.
Hi, Sean Faber.
I, Martha Smith.
I, Jeff Benson. And I did not hear any abstentions or nays, so thank you all for the time. Again, looking forward to working with y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good start.